We live in a stressful world, at home, at the office, on the streets. Stress takes its toll on our health. It can be fatal. This is about survivors.
I flatlined in the hospital for 60 seconds. So it's a miracle that I'm here.
It was extremely shocking. The last place I expected to be was in the emergency room in a hospital and anticipating surgery.
Drugs and surgeries are not enough. We must learn self-care.
Within a couple of weeks of learning relaxation techniques and recognizing common stress warning signs, they're absolutely amazed by how much stress probably has contributed to their health problems.
The life-saving importance of handling stress is beginning to draw attention in the medical community. We begin in Paris with an innovative cancer treatment, fighting the deadly fatigue and anxiety that come with the disease.
Yes, salut. Oh, comme une vague. Oh, comme une vague. Oh, comme une vague. Oh, d'accord. Oh, go.
These ordinary people learning karate are all cancer patients. They participate in a special karate program called Camille, created by cancer specialist Dr. Thierry Bouillet.
The first time I heard the word karate, I said to myself, it's out of the question. I can't do karate at my age. And then I was like everybody, I suppose, absolutely taken by these exercises, by the atmosphere, by the fact of regularly getting together, and then by the advice of Jean-Marc, by his philosophy, by all kinds of the things that surround you here.
Marie-France Roux went through 2 surgical operations which removed her cancer. She has not had a relapse.
To me, this approach is medical, athletic, and spiritual. There is also the fraternal aspect between us.
When you do a little karate, you yell, you get out of yourself, get out everything that's bottled up in you. This does wonders for us.
You let some steam off, you throw punches, you let off some more steam. In the beginning, it's very difficult to throw punches. Beginners can't bring themselves to punch or yell.
First, you can't bring yourself to yell. No sound comes out, because you're all bottled up inside.
Essayez de détendre au maximum les mains, les coudes, les épaules, les hanches, le bas du dos. Soufflez bien.
But it's true, people are surprised to hear karate at our age, especially when you're sick, that you're going through treatments. Thierry Bouillet could have told you. Doctors take him for a maniac. To ask sick people to do karate while going through heavy treatments, like the one I'm following right now, it seems unthinkable.
Sans force. Sit. Hutch. Coup. Dieu. Et on relâche.
Geneviève is going through her second bout with cancer. After a remission, she is back taking intensive chemotherapy with all its side effects, including hair and nail loss and intense stress and fatigue. The class is taught by karate master Jean-Marc Decotte, whose team won second place in the World Championship karate competition. He also practices and teaches Zen meditation.
Voilà, s'asseoir. Ouvre un peu tes pieds encore, Mario. Tes genoux, étire les genoux. Voilà, à fond. Voilà.
When you're exhausted, you feel better after the class than you did when you got there. You leave less tired than when you got there. But that doesn't cure the illness. Such thinking would be cultish, guru-type stuff. That doesn't cure the illness. It gives you the strength and the energy. You put all your strength and energy into it. And Genevieve could tell you right now, she's so tired, she doesn't have much energy left. We manage to overcome everything we have, you know, and that's why when you leave the class you feel better. You recuperate the strength and energy necessary to fight the illness. But it's not the class that heals us. It's our minds. We find energy in our bodies, the energy to fight what I see as the bad cells.
How many times have I come thinking that I didn't have the physical strength to do karate? And Jean-Marc simply asked me to go get dressed. And I got myself together and did the class. I would never have thought that I was in a healthy enough state to bear such a class, and yet I did it like everybody else. We overcome our limits. It's something that carries us away. We go to limits we wouldn't otherwise attain. We would simply abandon ourselves to fatigue, to depression.
We fight against depression with the help of karate.
While here, we push our limits, and that's how we begin to believe in ourselves again, to believe in our bodies again. That's what saves us.
100% of the patients doing radiotherapy, chemotherapy, or hormonotherapy are exhausted. This fatigue is a real problem. It can be devastating and diminish the quality of their life. They merely survive. What's the classical medical response to this? Get some rest. Well, the more you rest, the more you're tired, for sick people as well as for the perfectly healthy. When you compare patients who are physically active and healthy to other patients who have the same illness but who are not physically active and healthy, the active patients aren't as tired, depressed, and anxious. They have higher self-esteem and more joy in their life. There are tests that allow us to gauge such things, and the fact of being athletic really helps them heal. It had been a long time that I had been practicing karate as an individual and as a martial artist, when it occurred to me that it might be a possibility for my patients. Karate-do is not a sport, let's be clear on that point. It's a philosophy for using the body and the mind. The philosophy of our club is really the unity of the mind and body. As in the old adage, a clean mind in a clean body. It's really the same idea. The only thing is that cancer patients must first build their body back up, and then afterwards they will be able to work on their mind. For patients to rehabilitate, they first have to trust their body again, and then they can work on their mind. First physical exercise, and then meditation and relaxation to rehabilitate the mind. Gilbert went through an operation for his prostate cancer. Like the others, he joined the program for medical reasons.
This illness made me lose all confidence. The first thing that comes back is your confidence. Now I feel like I did before. I think I have always been a fighter, in my professional life, as well as my life in general, and even after being struck down. And when I come here, there is a camaraderie. It's almost like a new family. I feel really comfortable with myself here.
We all have the same problems. We all feel the same things that we can't talk about anywhere else. When we are here with each other, we can talk. Just to be with each other helps us out a lot. As long as my doctor tells me, you can do it, you must, I give it all I've got. It's he who can say, okay, you're too tired, take a break. But otherwise, I've got to give it all I've got.
For over 30 years, Geneviève directed the travel department at the Paris headquarters of a large multinational corporation.
At night, when I finished working, I would have 200 requests already awaiting me. And the next morning at 10 o'clock, there would be another 200. We were behind and had endless requests to take care of. I would get up at 5:30 in the morning and get home at 8:30 at night. And sometimes I would bring work home. Sometimes I would work on the weekends. I didn't always have enough time to eat lunch. With 3 telephones on my desk, 2 computers, and 15 people to manage. At night, I would wake up at 2 in the morning with problems I hadn't been able to solve in my head. In the family, I have a reputation for being strong. I can't complain. I have a great deal of character up to a certain point. My body can't always do what I want it to, and that's what one ends up paying for sooner or later. Everything was going well. I felt like my illness was in remission. And then, after the next examination, I got the bad news. Both my lungs were hit. Dr. Bouillet was very worried because I was really pretty far gone. We started chemo right away, the same day, in heavy doses. I underwent the heaviest treatment that exists. I didn't have the time to recuperate.
I saw Geneviève tired, depressed, no longer wanting to keep up the fight, no longer seeing the use of going on. We had almost come to the end there. Despite everything, she kept coming back, because we pushed her, because we were there for her. Little by little, with the practice of karate, she finally got back up, started doing her makeup again, and made an effort. She came to work out, left all her worries in the locker room, and just tried to concentrate on herself and work on her body.
The patient's willingness is 100%. If the patient has no willingness, there are all sorts of problems. The more intense the treatment, the more effective it is. The more intense, the more side effects. The patient has got to learn to manage with his or her will a number of side effects which can be terrible and devastating. He must tell the therapist, I accept these side effects because I have such and such a goal that we defined together. And with that willingness, the treatment can start.
Physically, you don't recognize yourself anymore. I am unrecognizable in my illness. You lose your identity. Catching sight of yourself in a mirror, you no longer recognize yourself. You don't know who you are. I placed a great deal of importance in what others thought about me, about what I did. But today, what's important is not what others think, but what I think about what I do. I need more serenity in my life, to better understand myself, to be able to listen to myself. I can't be all wound up. That's very bad, if only for my illness. You absolutely have to let out all that's bottled up inside. I was a nervous wreck. I have a lot of work to do. I've had a bit of success at this, but I still have a lot to do. It's doing the inner work that can save me, that can help me. It all comes from the mind, and only my mind can help me get over this illness.
C'est terrible de pas
It's
bouger.
difficult not to move. To keep sitting still, it's almost unnatural.
C'est presque, on va dire, c'est presque pas naturel. C'est tout d'un coup, on se rend compte que...
You suddenly realize how much happens within your body.
Le fait que tout d'un coup, il n'y ait plus... de
When you no longer move, you are really
c'est
inside
vraiment-
yourself.
Là, on est vraiment en soi. La méditation, c'est vraiment une prise de conscience de soi.
Meditation is about realizing who you are, because all of a sudden everything stops,
Qui se met à bouger, lui, dans tous les sens, il se met à réfléchir.
and then your mind really gets going.
Dans
You
tout,
start to
en
think
fait.
about
Parce
everything,
que
because the
le corps
mind
se
cannot
transforme.
bear inaction.
Et petit à petit,
Little by
tu dois
little,
apprendre à
you have to
relâcher.
learn how to let your body
Il faut
go,
apprendre
to let your thoughts pass
à
by,
laisser passer
to concentrate on
ses
yourself,
pensées,
to
il faut
discover
apprendre à se
yourself
concentrer sur soi
through being
et se
still.
découvrir à travers l'immobilité.
Mitch Notice had a quadruple coronary bypass operation a year ago, which turned his life upside down. After his operation, his doctor enrolled him in the cardiac wellness program of the Mind Body Medical Institute near his Boston home.
Hi, Mitch. How are you? Nice to see you. Take a seat. We're just going to go over a little bit of your progress since we saw you in the program a few months ago. You look great. Are you feeling well?
I'm feeling fine, feeling
Good.
terrific.
Have you had any recurrent symptoms of chest pain?
No,
or
absolutely
shortness of
nothing
breath?
at all. No,
Okay,
no.
good for you. Have you had a lot of stress over the last few months?
Well, not out of the ordinary, but you know, I'm a litigator. I'm an attorney,
Right.
and I litigate cases. So in the course of things, either with clients or the courts or other attorneys, there is stress every so often. I mean, nothing really in my home life or with my
Yeah.
wife or son, but you know, work is stressful.
And have you been able to use some of the cognitive skills that you learned in the program to counter some of that stress at work?
There are times when I'm aware that I'm getting tense, that my
so you're
shoulder's
much
getting
more able
tight,
to-
and I kind of say, well, wait a second, let's not do that. You know, it kind of prevents me from going down the road of just getting all anxious and stressed.
Okay, so what I'm going to have you do, we'll have you just take a seat up here, Mitch, and I'm going to
Okay.
check your blood
Great.
pressure. We'll recheck your weight today.
Aggie Casey is the nurse practitioner who runs the cardiac wellness program at the clinic.
Take a couple of nice
There are
deep
similar
breaths.
programs for those suffering other illnesses as well.
Excellent.
getting?
120 over 70 today.
Consistent,
That's
great.
very good.
Yeah.
Research now shows that only about 50% of patients with heart disease can be contributed to the more biological factors that we know about with hypertension and smoking and cholesterol. And a lot of research now, compelling research actually, indicating that people that have a lot of acute and chronic stress seem to have many more significant physical and emotional health problems. Patients come in for an initial evaluation to review their medical history. We then actually meet with them to set up specific goals around nutrition, weight loss, cholesterol reduction. Obviously another important goal is to get them to really resume being physically active. So they would be exercising in a supervised program.
Oh, I wind up at around 4-2.
Okay. You take some time to warm up. You start at a slower pace.
Start for a
Work
few
up.
minutes.
Good.
Like
Okay.
3, 1, 3, 2.
Yep. That's what you should do. You should take about 5 or 6 minutes and just gradually increase it. Bring it. You know, you can speed it up a little bit, slow it down a little bit. Speed it up a little bit, slow it down a little bit. We call it biological flexibility, which has to do with heart variability, which correlates with a healthy heart. And you might want to do that for a minute or two. Speed it up a little bit.
Like cancer patients, heart patients find exercise is an important self-care practice.
We know that exercise is not just for physical cardiovascular conditioning, but also does help in mind-body awareness and stress management. The stress management aspects, people that are able to better manage stress generally will be able to exercise more efficiently, so there's often an overlap between them. So I don't think we can identify which of the aspects of the program is most important. I think probably for each patient that varies. But from my experience, I find that patients probably are the least aware of the role of stress with heart disease. That often they understand the importance of exercise and nutrition, but will frequently come to the program telling me that they don't have any stress. And then within a couple of weeks of learning relaxation techniques and recognizing common stress warning signs, they're absolutely amazed by how much stress probably has contributed to their health problems.
If you're ready to stop, you can gently come out of the relaxation response.
Hi.
Good. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you again. Good to see you again.
How's it going?
Fine, fine.
You really got into it well this time. Your respiratory rate was about 10 or so.
Yeah,
It's wonderful. And you know, your whole facial musculature, as usual, is quite relaxed. Over 60% of visits to doctors are because of stress. And your normal blood pressure? There are so many stress-related disorders: anxiety, depression, excessive anger and hostility, high blood pressure, heart attacks, also insomnia, chronic pain, premenstrual syndrome, infertility, hot flashes of menopause. The symptoms of cancer and AIDS can all be effectively treated. When we are under stress, and by stress I mean any situation which requires change, any adjustment is stressful. We evoke the fight or flight response. We don't run, we don't fight, yet we have adrenaline going through our body. The fight or flight response, speaking to what a caveman did, was very important. To be able to run or flee a predator, to be able to chase an animal. It was very important. But in our modern world, we don't run, we don't fight, yet we have stressors that bother us. And then we discovered that when a person repeats a word, a sound, a prayer, a phrase, or a movement, and then disregards everyday thoughts when they come to mind, there's a set of physiologic changes within the body. Your metabolism decreases, your heart rate goes down, your breathing goes down, your brain waves get slower. We hypothesize now that the fundamental molecule that is liberated in the body is nitric oxide, NO. And that gaseous element counteracts the harmful effects of stress. And this is under study now, but we have hypothesized that nitric oxide is the biochemical that's liberated that then leads to a cascade of other biochemical changes throughout the body.
How easy is it to keep stress at bay in our busy lives?
Although I get along with my attorney opponents very professionally and very respectfully, we both try as hard as we can to win the cases, and there's a lot of pressure. There are time pressures, pressures from clients. Although I really enjoy trying cases and being in court, it's a high pressure situation as well. Good, what's up?
This came in for you today. They've called already like twice.
Okay. I also have my own business. I'm a sole practitioner, so I'm really running a business in addition to practicing law. Dana, hi. This is Mitch. You know what? Can you hold on one sec? Thanks. Hold on.
Hi, Mitch. I'm sorry.
Hi.
This letter for you. Also, we're going to have to make sure that we meet that deadline for the brief tomorrow.
Okay.
this
On
way.
that. Okay. How are you doing with that?
I should have them draft to you in the morning.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Okay.
All right.
And then I just need to file this, but after you get off the phone, I'll take care of
Okay,
it.
thanks. We got that stuff out to him, by the way, the
Yes.
copies?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
Not a problem.
Dana? All right, let's see. Is everything okay? I was going for a checkup with my intern. I had actually planned on being in court for a settlement conference later in the morning at 10:30. I mentioned what I guess were symptoms to him, which I thought were very minor, and I credit him with saving my life, really. What I said is that occasionally I have some, not pains, but a fullness in my arm, and he was very suspicious, and he immediately ran he brought in a portable EKG machine. He ran an EKG, and he said, "This is abnormal," and he thought a minute or two, and he said, "You're going to the hospital right now." And over the course of the next week, I had a large number of tests, most of which were very displeasing because the results were not what I wanted. And the day after Thanksgiving, I had quadruple coronary artery bypass surgery. And I expected to be in court that day. I expected to have a very easy week, and I expected to be on vacation for the Thanksgiving holiday. And none of that happened, so it was extremely shocking. The last place I expected to be was in the emergency room, in a hospital, and anticipating surgery.
Let me get that ready, and then we can add
Mitch made a big change in his eating habits. This was one of the first things his wife helped him do after his operation. He eliminated most fats and refined carbohydrates, concentrating on fruits, vegetables, fish, and reduced calories.
That helped me very much with diet issues, although my wife knew about a lot of that. It gave us some other ideas, and it got me realizing that I can enjoy, because we've always enjoyed food very much and eating, that I could enjoy this modified diet, perhaps more really, than what I had been eating before.
Mitch is about 25 pounds lighter, so he's trim, he's more fit, he looks younger, he has more energy, he is less stressed. It doesn't mean that his life is less stressful, but I would say that he handles stress more effectively now than he did.
I meditate 3 or 4 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes a time, and I'd say every day or other day I do what they call minis, maybe just kind of taking a break for a minute, closing my eyes, breathing easily, and for 30 seconds to a minute or two. About 2 weeks ago, I had an oral argument in federal district court here in town that I was concerned about. It was a very important case. And I remember at one point driving into town, I was hitting a lot of traffic. And so while I was stopped at a light, I did a mini, not for very long, because I wanted to be aware of my driving situation. And that relaxed me a bit, because I could feel myself getting tense and feeling the way I didn't want to be feeling. That helped. And also, I went up to the library in the federal courthouse, and although I in the past have always sat there for a bit before an argument, at this point I sat there and I meditated for 15, 20 minutes. By doing the meditation beforehand, I was more relaxed during the argument, but I was able to pace myself better. I have a lot to say, and if I'm anxious or nervous, I'll just spew it out much too quickly. I'll start speaking extremely fast. And I usually can control that, but I found I wasn't concerned about this because I was just more relaxed.
It's not the traffic, for example, that's stressful, but it's their appraisal or interpretation of that. You know, I'll never get there, this always happens to me, I should have left earlier, my whole day is ruined. And so they begin to recognize that those thoughts are counterproductive. And then they stop that cycle, take a deep breath, and say, all right, how else can I think about it? And so for most people, they'll say, I can handle it. This is not a big deal. You know, I'm not the only one stuck in traffic. The worst situation is I'll be a few minutes late. I'm just going to listen to some music and relax. But it does take a fair amount of practice for people to realize that they have control over the stressful situations, because a lot of it is their interpretation and not the actual event that's triggering the stress response in that way.
When the field started, it was not respectable to study mind, body, or to study stress. In fact, at the beginning, I carried out two careers, my routine cardiology as well as mind-body medicine. And many people felt that I was throwing away a otherwise promising career to waste my time in something as far removed from the normal way of practicing medicine with drugs and surgery. The reason this came about is that drugs and surgeries over the last 150 years have become so powerful that we thought it's all we needed. And it was almost heresy to study mind-body. But slowly, inexorably, over the decades, the science of mind-body medicine has now been proven. Now, over half of the medical schools in America teach relaxation response techniques. The National Institutes of Health, our major research funding body, is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on mind-body research.
Now shrug your shoulders and roll your head and neck around. Great. Okay, now sit at ease without movement and breathe slowly. Now, each time your breath is coming out, say silently to yourself your chosen word, sound, prayer, or phrase.
Dr. Benson presents his ideas at a training session for 600 doctors and healthcare specialists coming from all over the country. As part of it, they get to experience a 5-minute meditation.
Over 50% of Americans are now practicing techniques that evoke the relaxation response. They could be prayer, they could be meditation, they could be Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga. They all lead to a common physiologic state. And most healthcare professionals do not know that their patients are carrying these procedures out. Thank you. Yes.
As a pediatrician, I'm curious, however, that has this relaxation response and the teaching of this technique been taught to children?
The dancing in the Sufi tradition, people talk in our culture about runner's high, and I wonder how these things essentially compare.
Have there been studies on the vibrational or energetic impact of words in particular?
There were more relaxed settings. Exactly. If the quietude of the mind, which I showed, is there, there's less static, there's less noise. You listen better. I will be available should there be other questions. And once again, let me welcome you and thank you for coming. Thank you.
Whether it be an illness like cancer or a cardiac problem, a knee problem, or a simple cold, all health problems are a sign of a fundamental issue. If you don't pay attention to these signs, you'll always be sick without ever knowing why. Of course, there are viruses. There is always a real, tangible, and palpable cause for an illness. Cancer cells exist. The fact that a ligament may be inflamed exists. But the problem is not there. The problem is to know why that ligament is inflamed, why there are cancerous cells, why, when you have 50 people in a given place, 2 of them will catch a cold and 48 will not, or vice versa. Because there are people who are more receptive, more in touch with themselves, more in harmony than others with their own being. If you learn how to listen to yourself, learn how to abandon yourself to your own feelings and emotions, learn how to live in a certain harmony with your ideas and reality, that's when you come to understand that everything that happens to us is a consequence of our way of living and our outlook on life.
If you let the patient believe that meditation or karate is going to cure them, or that they have to do it to be cured, they are naturally going to think that stopping will put them in danger. That's why you have to present it as a resource, a support tool, not as a therapeutic treatment. My theory is that those patients often neglected their body before getting sick, blocked out a large part of their personality, and gave up on a lot of things that used to make them feel good. These people were forced to live with constraining situations that didn't suit them, even before the disease, like many other human beings on this earth. The hardship of cancer, I see it with patients, I hear it all the time, makes one ask the right questions and go back to the essentials, to what we are, to our priorities.
This type of approach is not going to cure the disease, but will most probably improve the rapport we all have with ourselves and with others too. In that way, it's going to help the recovery. It's going to support the remission process. And what is important then is for the patient to take advantage of the disease to change his life.
I am not a guru. I don't say do karate and your cancerous cells will disappear. The doctor has his role. The problem is doctors only take care of the body.
Toute la pratique du corps interpelle l'esprit.
Everything about the body is connected to the mind, just as all psychic problems are connected to the body. The body's tensions are held in the shoulders. The worries of the mind are getting stored in the stomach. The narrow-mindedness in the knees, legs, ankles, etc., etc. The interaction between the mind and body is permanent. At CAMI, they want to understand, really want to understand more than the practical side of things. They really want to understand the origin of a given cancer, why it happened.
I have a daughter who is now 36 years old, and ever since she was a teenager, without ever realizing it, she has been depressed. My husband is depressive as well, and I have always been the emotional support for both of them, always. After my second operation, my daughter came to visit me, and we played our usual game. She dumped all her worries on me. As soon as she told me everything, she felt a lot better, but I felt a lot worse. So I went to pieces, and the nurses came to see me, and they said to me, "Mrs. Roux, you can't go on like this. If you do, you won't be cured. You're going to lose the fight. You now have to be self-centered." Ever since my cancer, my approach has been to put myself first. Karate has become indispensable to me. It is a crucial part of my balance. To stay balanced, I need physical exercise, and karate is one. Since it is a physical exercise as well as a philosophy, this sport is better than any other. The classes are adapted to your level, and I absolutely need them. If you give up the fight, the cancerous cells come back. You have to be vigilant to stay on top of them.
Marie-France, tout de suite, quand on a commencé les cours de karaté.
Right when we started the karate classes, Marie-France understood why she had to fight. Not to fight for the well-being of others, but for her own well-being. To know that if she felt better, then others could feel better. She went through a phase in her life of self-negation. Then she realized that if she wanted to bring something to those around her, she had to first take care of herself. Martial arts, meditation, breathing, relaxation are all simply different ways to get to the top of the same mountain that is self-knowledge.
What happens in our brains when we meditate? Anyone can do it. It's even been made into a game called Brain Ball. No experience or practice needed. In the bandana around the head, electrodes measure the alpha waves our brain generates. The more our brain relaxes and slows down, the more alpha waves there are. The alpha waves of the two players are displayed on a screen. As one player relaxes more than the other, a ball rolls to the goal and he scores. No magic, just magnets under the table activated by the computer measuring the brain waves. Scientists have begun studying the brains of meditators using real-time scans of the brain to see how its activity changes from moment to moment. A study recently reported at a scientific conference at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology shows that while meditating, the brain remains quiet even though the meditator is completely aware of surrounding events. Even stressful events don't cause such a stressful reaction. Can you get medical benefits by learning to meditate on your own? Chris Newbert has never met Dr. Benson or visited his clinic. After his heart attack, Chris found 2 pages on how to meditate in one of Dr. Benson's books. With his doctor's approval, he started meditating 10 years ago, and he's still at it.
A mailing had gone out in a local journal that cost us a lot of money, and it was very timely, and something was done wrong, and we hadn't told them how to do it correctly. And when Chris found out, he went, the word is ballistic. He was extremely upset and had one of those sort of fits. And again, he got very red in the face and was started talking with me and John, but ended up escalating, and he ended up really kind of yelling and saying, "Get this done again," and things like that. And at the end of the meeting, John and I kind of looked at each other, and one of us had said to the other, if he doesn't calm down, he's going to have a heart attack. And unfortunately, it happened, I think 2 days later.
Chris and his partner run an investment advisory business in Connecticut.
No, I understand that. It'll be done well. But we don't have to go back and talk about why we're doing it, right? I mean, does it need to be resold?
He's told us a lot about his meditation and the times that he does it and how that's helped him to really calm down. And the difference is amazing. He's much more calm. He's focused, even when things go wrong, as they always do in any business. He doesn't get as upset as he used to. It doesn't fly off the handle, and I can really see him pull himself back and calm down about it and work through the issues. And I think he's much happier and feels much better for it too.
When Chris had his heart attack 10 years ago, his wife rushed him to the hospital in enormous pain.
I flatlined in the hospital for 60 seconds. So it's a miracle that I'm here. But in any event, I am. For some unknown reason, one of the interns, just around that time, goes down to the lobby and gets my wife. She walks in, I flatline. She freaks out. One of the doctors looks and says, what, I won't use the expletives, but what the blankety blank is she doing here? Get her out of here. Take her out. I can smile now, but I mean, she was just freaked out. They closed the curtains. Curtains open up again. 3 minutes later, I'm alive. It was like, I reference it like Lazarus. It was like Lazarus coming back. But, so I flatlined, and then they paddled me back. The first thing I changed, diet's a logical thing, and my wife and I had always had a good diet, but we made it a better diet. My wife would love to see me not take any medicines, but when I don't take the meds, it definitely, my cholesterol goes up. My system produces a lot of cholesterol, so I think I need the meds. But I take a lot of blood tests. I get my blood tested every quarter, so they're checking my liver and all the other bodily functions. The meditation part has been a wonderful part because to me, it's kind of tied it all together. Because when I'm done, I still feel very much at peace. I just have this tremendous feeling of total calm, total peace, and yet I'm extremely productive. when I sit to meditate, my goal is really to do nothing. You know, my goal is to ask for nothing. In fact, my goal is to kind of wipe my mental blackboard clean if I can, and to just have, you know, to be at total peace with no thoughts in my mind and just total relaxation. And that in turn turns itself in this, what I believe is this tremendous source of energy, creativity, and again, a great platform for you to go on during the rest of your day and have a very, you know, productive day. I know there's all kinds of various types of meditation and all kinds of different practices and exercise and discipline, and you know, I think at least in my upbringing, and you know, whether it's movies or reading, you think of meditation, you think of, you know, monks, or you think of monasteries, or you think of I guess they're called ashrams, and you know, places where people go and meditate. You don't think of it as something that you can just kind of sit down and do for a period of time in your home or in your office, or riding a bus or any place, or sitting in an airport waiting to get a plane. And that's why I think Benson really, in my estimation, captured something that was just fabulous, because to me it's just very practical. To me it's like running. It doesn't take any skill set.
The meditating has definitely calmed him, focused his intensity to a degree that's been just much more productive. He's always been a good father, but it's even made him a better father, because things that are happening all the time in our crazy, stressful lives, he's been able to just take on full, you know, face forward with absolute conviction, without the high emotion that was before behind it. He just is happier. Instead of coming home from work exhausted and maybe sometimes frustrated by something that would have happened from work, with people, with whatever, from day to day, everybody has their trials and tribulations. He always can find the positive spin, and he always comes home in a great mood. I mean, he really does. Just is extremely calm and happy.
I do not believe that meditation, that you have to be a member of any particular religion, or to be of Oriental belief, or have Zen Buddhist beliefs. I happen to be a Christian. I don't believe that there's any conflict between what meditation represents and what my Christian beliefs represent. Again, in my instance, I went to meditation for health reasons, based upon having a heart attack. What I've learned from a number of years of practicing it is, one, my health has remained very, very good, and I would have to say that meditation has been a part of that.
In truth, we have discovered nothing new. People have been carrying out a repetition and the disregard of other thoughts for millennia. This goes back to our earliest societies with drum beats, or the stamping of feet, or chanting, or religious repetitions, or secular repetitions such as yoga and Tai Chi, Qigong, such as autogenic training, such as progressive muscular relaxation, the repetition of hypnosis. These have been going on for thousands of years. All we have done is put scientific verification, scientific documentation of what these age-old practices have been doing.
The real secret to success is I trust my therapist, and as for the rest, the rehabilitation of my body, I trust the guidance of my karate instructor, which is going to allow me to rehabilitate. I know what he tells me to do, I can do without endangering myself. Contrary to what I feared, the atmosphere is very welcoming, and the medical community is open-minded. What is really wonderful is to see human beings come back.
The journey, in a way, of being able to work with this population is wonderful, because so many patients, when they first are referred to us, especially when people are 40 years old and they've just had a heart attack or bypass surgery, they come in feeling extremely angry and worried that they're not going to see their children grow up, that they're not going to be able to work anymore. And what I think is wonderful is that once they actually embrace this type of philosophy, is that many patients at the end of the program, for example, will tell me that their heart attack was a gift, which is a pretty amazing transition, that it's a gift to have been able to look at their life differently. They much more find themselves present, spending time with their family, really, I guess, living their life. Often it's the diagnosis of an acute illness that patients realize that they're somewhat vulnerable, and potentially, if they don't live their life, they may not have a second chance.
In fact, it isn't necessary to wait for a heart attack or medical crisis. Anyone can start learning to handle stress better today.